Good afternoon. Okay, Madan. Premise indicators are the words used by the author to tell the reason, to give justification, to build up his argument. So you come across these terms: since, because, for, as, that's why, the reason is, in the CSAT passages. So is that clear, Madan? Now I will show you how the premise indicators are used by the author and why am I discussing this. So this is PYQs that we are supposed to solve in maybe after 2 more classes, and so one passage I am going to discuss from this one. We'll show you that how the premise indicators uh, play an important role. Now look at this passage. This was from the paper, this is from the paper 2021. Author has written his opinion here. It is certain that seditions, wars, and contempt or breach of the laws are not so much to be imputed to the wickedness of the subjects as to the bad state of a dominion. Now, meaning, I think everybody understands wickedness. The negative word it is. It means the the slyness, the shrewdness of the subject. Subject here means the public. So if these things exist in a state, sedition, wars, or contempt or breach of the laws, then the onus, the responsibility does not lie on the public as much as it lies on the state itself. Dominion means the power. So the idea is clear. So this is the author's opinion. See, if these XYZ negative things are happening in a country, then the more responsibility is on the government rather than the public. And now he gives the premise, reason for that. For, so it's a premise indicator. For men are not born fit for citizenship, but must be made so. So it means that the state did not train them, did not inculcate such a culture that they become a good citizen. They are not born fit. Men are not born fit. So this is one reason author is saying that why the state is more responsible. Look at another premise. Besides means in addition to that. Do remember that there is another word beside without s, which is a preposition, which means close by. But this is besides with s, which means in addition. So in addition to this premise, now author is giving you the premise number 2. So here is the premise number 1, for men are not born fit. Now the premise number 2, in addition. Besides, men's natural passions are everywhere the same, and if wickedness more prevails and more offences are committed in one common than in another, it is certain that the former has neither enough pursued the end of unity nor framed its laws. Author goes further in his argument. These are the 2 premises he has written to establish his idea mentioned in the first sentence. So, in fact, the ability to read the argument and it by and large depends on your ability to connect with the keywords. So that's the reason I discussed with you the premise indicators. And now, as of now, we have done 2 types of questions: implication and corollary. Now I am going to take you, before I discuss, in the pre-lunch session, I discussed with you the keywords, the indicators, your sensitivity to the words. I'm going to give you some questions to evaluate your sensitivity to the given words. Fine? So, if I show you some statements here, Yeah. First of all, let me test your that how you remember what I discussed in the pre-lunch session. So here is a statement given. If one plays in the rain, one gets cold. Now you have to consider which one follows logically from above. And you have to make a logical conclusion or inference. Quickly write down which statement is correct. You should not take more than 20 seconds because already the formula has been shared with you. One, two, three. Quickly write your answer. I am waiting for your answer. In case you are contemplating, it should not take more time. I have already shared the formula with you and told you that whenever if is given, if x then y, quickly use that formula. Okay. So everybody has written 3. Very good. That is the correct answer. Yeah. Third one is the correct answer. Now, look at this statement. Only last one was correct, not all the 3 statements. The student who has written all the 3 statements must listen to my pre-lunch session video recording and then you can understand easily, right? Now this one, here is a statement, the minimum voting age for males in zero land is 18 years, right? There are some keywords that control the meaning, the implication of this sentence. You have to tell me whether these are not the options A, B, C, D, E. So don't just jump that one of them is correct. No. Maybe all of them are correct or maybe none of them are correct. What you are supposed to do, let me explain that first. So, minimum voting age for males in zero land is 18 years. The message or the meaning or the implication that you get out of this statement, you have to decide that whether A is a complete representation of the message given in the original statement or not. Similarly, you go for B, whether it's complete representation of the message or something has been missed out. So I remind you that here you are not supposed to make inferences, like any logical deduction for one part, for one segment to be correct. No. Overall, in totality, with whatever the original message has said and the given A, B, C, D, E, whether they are the complete, they convey the same message in totality or not. So how will you write the answer? only such a statement that you find ki yes, it is correct, you should write. If you find none of them is correct, you just write none. If you find all of them are correct and complete representation, then you just mention all. Okay? No meaning should be left from the original statement. So your attention to the keyword. So the answers have started pouring in. I have told you that the chosen statement must be a complete representation, must do the complete representation of the idea given in the original statement. Because there are some discrepancies created here, I want you to notice that discrepancy. Look at the first one. It says the minimum voting age for males in Zero Land is 18 years. Okay, this is the minimum age. It means 18 years are allowed, and then 18 plus are also allowed. 18 and 18 plus are allowed in this voting. This voting allows, this statement talks about males only, so we know nothing about the females. Second point, 18 and 18 plus are allowed, males are allowed, right? And the place is Zero Land. Okay. Now option A, statement A says every male above 18 can vote in Zero Land. Every male above 18 can vote in Zero Land is incorrect, not the complete representation. Reason is that it is only talking about above 18, whereas 18 is also included as minimum voting age has been given. I told you not to draw just the inferences, like this is the logical deduction I deduce from this information. No, this statement, its complete meaning, that should be represented by the chosen statement. So A is wrong, all those students, and I think almost all of you have chosen option A, statement A, except this student Anis has gone for C and D. So A is wrong. B says someone who is not 18 cannot vote in Zero Land. B is wrong because it talks about someone. The statement is specific about males, so B is also not correct. But C statement says a male who is not 18 cannot vote in Zero Land. Now the meaning from this statement is that a male who is not 18, ab not 18, who qualifies as not 18, you know, not 18 means that 16, 17 are not 18, so they are not allowed. However, 19, 20 and 21, they are also not 18, so it means they are also not allowed, because it has only fixed the meter on 18. So a male who is not 18, it means above 18 and below 18 they are not allowed. But the original statement allows above 18 because that is the minimum age. So C has also missed out the key meaning. It is not the complete representation of the statement. Option D says for a male to be eligible to vote in Zero Land, he must be 18 years old. He must be 18 years old. But this statement does not convey the other part, that what about 18 plus? The 18 plus are also allowed. Hence D is not correct. Then last statement says minimum 18 years of age is the only criterion. Yeah, now you look at the keyword here, contextual keyword. Only criterion for a male to be eligible to vote in Zero Land. Again, this is not correct because we don't know whether it is the only criterion or other criteria do also exist. Only this criterion is mentioned in the statement, so you cannot choose even E. So your ability to notice that the word here is minimum, so 18 is included. Minimum also means that 18 plus are also allowed. So when you read, you should read for implication. I discussed this yesterday. In yesterday's class, I was discussing with you that your methodology matters a lot. So reading for implication, right? Anyway, so this was a discrepancy created here in the different statements. Now, before I move, again, there's a test of keyword. So I'm going to dictate a very small story, and you all are supposed to just write down the story. After that, I will give you a couple of statements, and then we'll explain that what you are supposed to do. Okay? So I just want, you please understand that RC is not about just teaching, and it's not just the heavy downloaded information you need here. RC is more about training. And the training, the integral part of that is that how sensitive you are to the words, how the author has used them, what is the underlying current. So that is a very, very important part. That's the reason I'm going to give you another test for this. It will be quite interesting. So now I dictate. I will, since so many people are out there, so let me just set the condition that first I will dictate it very slowly, right? Don't ask in case you have missed out anything in between. Just leave some space, and then from the next word onwards or next sentence onwards, you start writing. Once I am done with my dictation, I will come back. I will repeat this story. So whatever you missed earlier, you will be able to, get that. Now, this story is a very small one, hardly I think 4 or 5 lines it will take. So I suppose all of you are, you have pen and paper, right, and poised to write now. So I start it. Mr. Sharma, a buyer with XYZ Limited. Mr. Sharma, after that you will put a comma. You are telling his background, his profile. Mr. Sharma, a buyer, B-U-Y-E-R, a buyer with XYZ Limited, comma again, was scheduled for a 10 o'clock meeting Mr. Sharma, a buyer with XYZ Limited, was scheduled for a 10 o'clock meeting in Mr. Singh's office. Full stop. On the way to the office, the buyer slipped on a freshly waxed floor. The buyer slipped on a freshly waxed floor and as a result received a badly bruised leg. And as a result received a badly bruised leg. Everybody knows bruised, which means wounded, injured. As a result received a badly bruised leg. Full stop. By the time By the time Mr. Singh was notified of the accident, Mr. Sharma, by the time Mr. Singh was notified of the accident, comma, Mr. Sharma was on the way to hospital for an X-ray test. Mr. Sharma was on the way to hospital for an X-ray test. Full stop. Mr. Singh called the hospital. Mr. Singh called the hospital to inquire about Mr. Sharma. But it seems that no one there knows anything about him. Full stop. It is possible that Mr. Singh called a wrong hospital. It is possible that Mr. Singh called a wrong hospital. Full stop. The story ends there. That's it. So now I repeat the story from the beginning and you can cross check. Mr. Sharma, a buyer with XYZ Limited, was scheduled for a 10 o'clock meeting in Mr. Singh's office. Full stop. On the way to the office, the buyer slipped on a freshly waxed floor and as a result received a badly bruised leg. Full stop. By the time Mr. Singh was notified of the accident, Mr. Sharma was on the way to hospital for an X-ray test. Full stop. Mr. Singh called the hospital to inquire about Mr. Sharma, but it seems that no one there knows anything about him. Full stop. It is possible that Mr. Singh called a wrong hospital. It is possible that Mr. Singh called a wrong hospital. That's it. So this is the end of the story. You have seen that there are only two characters, Mr. Sharma, who is the buyer with XYZ Limited, and there is Mr. Singh. Mr. Singh is in fact the owner of XYZ Limited, the company mentioned in the story. Owner, and Mr. Sharma is the buyer. Buyer with this company. The rest of the story is clear to you. Now, I want you to just go through this story. Meanwhile, I am going to write a couple of statements and then we'll let you know your job. The student who has written about E statement, I will come back to this E statement later on. Now I am done. I have written here 4 statements, and I suppose these statements are legible to you. What you are supposed to do, they are based on a story. However, they may not be the fact, or they may be the fact. So you have to read each statement, and then in the light of information given in the story, you have to decide whether the given statement is a fact or not a fact. Okay. So, as you all know, fact is something which is as it is, which is evident. You can't argue against that. It actually follows from the given information. However, it will not be a fact in case there is any discrepancy. Discrepancy means the changes, the differences. Uh, Such differences that should not be there. I mean, in a way, we can say that the fudging of the data, when you distort something, or when you undermine something, or when you exaggerate something. So whether it's a fact or not, you have to decide. So you folks have 1 minute to read the given statements, and then the source of information is your story. Write down whether the 1, 2, 3, 4, which one are fact or not a fact. So, okay, somebody has written only 3 is the fact. First is also fact, okay. देखिए, we are working on a particular agenda. The agenda is that how sensitive you are to the written information. So, noticing the changes, the alterations, the discrepancies is the central part of your job. Even tomorrow. Tomorrow, as an officer, when you will be visiting, or when will you be, different places, offices, storehouses, granaries, FCI godowns, you will cross check whether the fact or the data given on the paper is same as at the ground level or not. So this is a very important exercise. I have received answers from yes. So let's go to the first statement. The first statement, this one is, in this 10 o'clock meeting, Mr. Sharma was going to meet Mr. Singh. It is not a fact. How it's not a fact? Because the original statement, the first statement only tells you that there was a 10 o'clock meeting. It was scheduled in Mr. Singh's office. So the venue of the meeting is given. Venue was given, but with whom this meeting was on, with whom this meeting Mr. Sharma was going to have, not given. So it is only given that Mr. Sharma, buyer with XYZ Limited, was scheduled for a 10 o'clock meeting in Mr. Singh's office. In Mr. Singh's office, whether he is going to meet Mr. Singh himself, or manager of Mr. Singh, or he is going to meet maybe some other subordinate of Mr. Singh, we do not know. Hence, first is not a fact, because this clearly mentions that the meeting was with Mr. Singh. Actually, it was scheduled with Mr. Singh. The timing is correct, 10 o'clock, that's fine. However, the person, we do not know from that. Is that clear? Second statement, so the first one is not a fact. Second one, by the time Mr. Singh was notified of the accident, Mr. Sharma was taken to hospital for an X-ray test. Rest of the information is correct, but was taken to. If you refer to the story, you have written there, Mr. Sharma was on the way to hospital. Now the phrase on the way does not give you the clear picture. Clear picture of what? Clear picture of this, whether he is going on his own or whether he is being accompanied by someone. We do not know from that phrase. So some people might start using logic that, sir, it is written there that he was badly bruised, and how can he go on his own? You know that the human war history is full of such instances where people were almost crippled, right, badly injured, yet they managed to creep or crawl to some other places. So please don't bring in that logic. He's badly bruised legs, so how can he, go somewhere? But we cannot rule out the possibility of going somewhere. So this one, by the time Mr. Singh was notified of the accident, Mr. Sharma was taken to hospital. Was taken is a clear-cut meaning. It gives you that he was accompanied by someone. Somebody has to have taken him to that. On the way does not clear. So hence we notice the discrepancy, and C second is also not a fact. Coming to the third one, many students have written third as a fact, though it is also not a fact, because it says no one at the hospital knew anything about Mr. Sharma. Original statement in the paragraph says it seems that no one knows. So when the author says it seems that, that's a probable sense, right? That's not certain. So when the original source itself is based on a probable sense, how can we make a statement or a claim so certain? So third is also not a fact. It does not depict that sense of probability here. Now comes the last one. Mr. Singh called a wrong hospital. Last sentence says it is possible that Mr. Singh called a wrong hospital, and this one is so certain. So again there is a discrepancy, and it is also not a fact. So in fact none of them was a fact. No fact mentioned here. Yes, Priyasmita, Anis, your answers. Right. I think some other students also wrote that none of the fact is there. Yes. Pami, yes. Pami said all of them incorrect. Yes, true. So your ability to notice the discrepancies will play a very important role when you evaluate the options. That is the reason I showed you this, gave you this exercise. So now let's, the keyword and the two interesting exercises I showed you. Now this one student asked that you could not understand E. E says minimum 18 years of age is the only criterion. Now from the statement we don't know whether it is the only criterion or there are other criteria as well. So far as the age is concerned, yes, it is given that it should be minimum age should be 18 years. But whether other criterion such as whether nationality or maybe the sanity of the person, lunatic to nahi hai, insane to nahi hai, these are other conditions that may or may exist or may not exist. So from the statement, since it is only concerned with the age, hence we cannot make any claim. Hence we cannot choose this claim that it is the only criterion. Right? So far as age is concerned, it is given here. So I suppose that's clear to you. Okay. So various type of discrepancies you will come across. Let me tell you that when you deal with the options, you have to be very careful. It is not just the questions, it is not just your reading, it is your evaluation and elimination method in the options that also plays a very crucial role. Hence all of you must have some idea, some tentative sense about the characteristics or traits of wrong options. One such trait I have discussed in pre-lunch session, that such options that have extreme notions present in them have greater chances to be incorrect. Similarly, there are different type of discrepancies also. Discrepancy means that whatever the author has said in the para and that has been changed or distorted by the examiner in the given options or statements. That should be noticed. Since your awareness will actually help you. So if you know that yes, these kind of things are part and parcel of this game, so certainly you will move ahead keeping those points on mind, and hence you will, you will be able to safeguard yourself from falling for such traps, and thus your accuracy will go up. So I just want you to just first focus on the options. The questions, of course, I will come back to, and I have been discussing with you the questions, but as of now I just want to discuss something about the options. So about the option, the most appropriate word to use for option is that these are not just the options, they are a they are a trap. So the option trap we are going to discuss now. Option trap, and there are various types. So a student who is who has been studying GS, and what he is vulnerable to, what kind of information will catch his attention, how his when he reads the paragraph, what are the other thoughts that will originate from that part, one particular part of the para. The examiner of UPSC is a master of this genre. He knows the ins and out of this. He knows your background. It may be your first or second or third time when you are appearing in CSAT paper. However, he has been doing it for ages. So dear, you have to be very careful when you deal with the options. Don't just in a hurry, you jump the gun and you decide that yes, it is correct, without properly evaluating it. So I'm going to discuss something about this option trap. But before this trap, to drive home the point, I want to play a small game with you. We have this medium has, right, though it solves our problem, however there are some limitations. So like one such limitation is that I cannot choose my volunteer, so I will rely on the name. So my volunteer is Spandan. I don't know I'm pronouncing your name correctly or incorrectly. So Spandan, you are my volunteer. Your job is, please acknowledge it, yes, with a thumbs up or yes, and so that I can proceed. So I will give you the instructions, and you are supposed to follow those instructions. Don't reveal your answer. Instead, I will give your answer, right? So though the choice will be yours, however, I will be able to predict it. At least I think so. Yes, Ispandan, are you there? So there are certain instructions I will give you, right? I'm not getting. Yeah, this system takes time. I don't know exactly how many seconds it take. Yes, so Spandan is there. So Spandan, you have to, this is simply the instructions, right? And you have to choose a number between any number from 1 to 9. From 1 to 9, you have to choose a number, but don't mention it here. I suppose you have chosen it. Once you have chosen it, what you have to do next, that whatever number that you have chosen here, I just represent that with a circle. You have to multiply that number with a 9. Okay? Your chosen number should be multiplied with a 9. Whatever you get as an answer, in case your answer is of 2 digits, then you are supposed to add both digits. If there are 2 digits, add both of them. If there is only 1 digit, like if you have chosen 1, then it's 9 ones are 9, like single digit. If it is single digit, then let it be. फिर ऐसे ही रहने दे उसको. But if it is of 2 digit, then you have to add both digits. Now, after addition or the other case, whatever you have come across here, जो आपको ये मिलता है यहाँ पर, after the calculation, whatever you have got, you have to do, this time I put a square here to convey the message that whatever you have got as an answer, you have to deduce 5 from it. 5. Okay? Now you have got something here. Your final, this number is, you have got something here as this number. So whatever number you have got, Spandan, I suppose you have followed all these mathematical, steps I have told you. Chose a number, and then after choosing that number, multiply it with the 9. If it is of 2 digit, add them. If it is of single digit, then let it be. And then whatever after addition you get, you have to reduce 5 from it. Or if it is 9 ones are 9, so 9 minus 5 you can have to do. Now your final finding, that number that you have got ultimately, what you are supposed to do, let me tell you that. In case you have got 1, you have to choose A. If your final number that you have found is 2, you have to choose B. Similarly, if you have got 3, you need to choose C. So you are supposed to choose a letter. A, B, C, D, E, F, whatever. So as per this order, if it is 1, A, 2, B, right? I suppose you have chosen. Now since you have got your letter, I don't know what is your letter, but if you have got your letter, you have to, you have to think of a country's name starting with that letter. I am saying country's name is starting with that letter that you have got. Don't mention that. Don't write down the name here. But I must tell you, Spandan, that it should be a country's name, not a state or a city name. ठीक है? तो आप लंदन और पेरिस और दुबई और दिल्ली नहीं कर सकते. आपको country choose करना है. Similarly, you cannot say Madhya Pradesh or so country's name. Done. Now, whatever you have got, suppose the country's name you have chosen, and the very last letter of that country's name. You have to think of an animal's name starting with that very last letter of the country's name. Think of an animal's name starting with the last letter of the country's name. Country की spelling का last letter से start करते हुआ उसके beginning से शुरू होता हुआ एक animal का नाम. Now you have done. Now again, from the animal's name that you have got here, the very last letter of that animal's name, you have to think of a color starting with that letter, starting with that last letter. So think of a shade or a color starting with that last letter. Fine. So finally you have come here, you have got your color. Okay, let me now guess. I guess your color is, and I'm going to write here, I guess your color is am I right? You write yes or no. Is it orange or not? Spandan. So it is orange, I am right? Alright, there must be other students who are playing along, and I have made my predictions accurately. Now how did I get it is not important here, and I think many of you, if you just apply, if you just think over it, you will be able to decipher right? So that's another thing. But I just wanted to tell you that how I was able to guess, because of the choices, because of the limitations, because of the general tendencies. So the way I was able to guess, similarly, UPSC examiner is also, he also knows your background, he knows your vulnerabilities, he knows that. So on one hand we have that in the RC, that this is the passage asks you something, and the question starts that on the basis of the passage you have to choose this answer, and some information may not be given in the passage, yet you are choosing it. So who wrote this option? The examiner. So he knows that very well. That's the reason he has mentioned that. Now folks, coming to this option trap, there are certain characteristics of wrong options. So I just want you to quickly note down. You know, so we are writing here the options, the traits of wrong options. And the point number one, but before you write point number one, here you must write a small point, contextual point, that each option is a claim. Your mental conditioning is very important. That's the reason I am asking you to write down this statement. Each option is a claim, and as a reader, make a slash oblique observer, as a reader slash observer, we have to decide whether the claim whether the claim made in the option is the answer to the question or not. So you have written each option is a claim, and we as a reader and observer have to decide whether the claim made in the option is whether the answer to the question. Point number one is whether it is answer to the question or not. So first thing. Is whether it is the answer to the question asked or not. Always be careful, right? So the thing might have been very correct, factually truth, scientifically proven, socially accepted. ऐसे बहुत सारे facts और figures हो सकते हैं जो author you लिख देगा wrong option में. However, if that is not the answer to the question, then it does not qualify. As you know that implication, implication answer should have this characteristics. It should be either a solution or it should be impact. Similarly, corollary, that should be a logical deduction based on the main point that author has said. So now whatever claim he has made in the options, no matter they are universally true, proven and established fact, politically correct, all those, whatever the symptoms are there, yet you have to watchful that at the first place, whether it is like a corollary answer or not, whether it's an implication answer or not, or whether it's a crux base, yani summary title or not. That is the first test, the first basic test, that it should be answer to the question. So the question is how, the answer should be for how. The answer should not be for when or why. Point number two, again you write with the same, in the same order, whether the claim made in the option, whether the claim made in the option is sufficiently backed by the passage or not. Whether the claim made in the option is sufficiently backed by the passage or not. Yes. So data sufficiency, data sufficient, or it is DI, data insufficient case. You have to be careful of this. That is mentioned in the second point. Point number 3, the claim made in the option, and whatever claim, whatever assertion it makes, there should be sufficient data for that in the passage. Suppose the passage, it has made a claim about the profit of a certain organization, that this venture or the organization or these companies will make profit. Why? Because in the para the author has said that the companies have got capital input from the government as a help, as a just to boost them. Now you start thinking, no, it is not the sufficient data, because input capital they have got, whether they will be able to convert it into profit or not, how do I know? Right? So data insufficient to make any claim about profit. There's only a possibility. Now, so far as the mathematical probability, if you consider, then if some companies or corporation who have got as a boost to boost their business, the government has helped them with some cash, so they may convert it into profit, one probability, number one. Number two, they may incur some losses also. And number three, there may be a condition of no profit, no loss. Yani there may be like a break-even point. So out of all three, how am I sure about only the first one, or just the second one, or the third one? This is a case of data insufficiency. I suppose that is clear. Point number 3, whether, and write down, whether the claim made in the option is logically consistent with the author's thought or not. Whether the claim made in the option is logically consistent with the author's thought given in the para or not. I suppose this point is also clear to you. Like from the para, when you read the author, you get to know his ideology or his thought or what his inclination is through his directly used, those words, or through the cues and indication that he has given. But when you come to option and you notice that the option seems to be going in an opposite direction in terms of the thought or the idea or the view, so you are not supposed to choose that, because there is a logical inconsistency between the two. They are not, they do not, reverberate with each other. They are not congruous to each other. So it depends on the question also. Suppose you have been asked to find out a logical conclusion on the basis of the passage, so you are not supposed to some logically inconsistent option, or you are supposed to draw a valid inference or a valid assumption. So for assumption and conclusion and inferences, you cannot choose an option which is logically inconsistent with the author's thought, because on the basis of the author's thought, you have to decide an option, right? So that is about the logical, or in terms of the thought, the inconsistency that you may come across. Then there are other types of indiscrepancies also. For example, directly you write those discrepancies now. For example, if the author has mentioned something in author is only writing about the present, or maybe author is only writing about the the time zone might have been changed. So author has written about the present, and the examiner in the option is going to make it as past or maybe future. So in terms of the time zone, you may notice the discrepancy. the distortion. So where present and past or future, and the examiner may write it in some other form. Especially, I mean, if I give you the example of those passages based on economy, where the author makes some kind of prediction about future, and he say that it may lead to the demand of this and this services, which may see a surge in the demand of the other thing. But he is making his claim about the future. Whereas if the examiner writes it has happened, the demand has been created, so of course there is a difference in terms of time, right? So these are the traits of wrong options, and you have written the fourth point. The fourth point is about the discrepancy, and discrepancy could be of different type. You have yourself seen in the passages, right? So let me now take you to the questions. Since we are going to solve now critical reasoning based passages, means logical questions where a small paragraph with sharp arguments will be given. So you must know something about its structure, and then we will we'll take up one by one question and we'll discuss about the strategy. Okay. So these are the types of questions we'll come across. We have already discussed these questions in your session plan, and as and when we come to a particular question, we will discuss the details. So I take you ahead, and so first of all, let's talk about the structure of these passages. Most of these questions, logical question based passages, will be written in persuasive writing style. Persuasive writing style, when an author has a certain point to establish, and he also gives you the premises for that. So we call that an argument. An argument in a passage is something, an argument is, it will contain two elements, number one C and number two P. Though otherwise you know that argument is like when two people or maybe two groups or an individual and a group involve in some heated discussion, debate kind of things, and maybe some kind of altercations. However, in the written form, any paragraph will be called in an argument form if it has the main point, the author has the main point to establish, that we call as conclusion. For the ease of learning, we call this point conclusion. And to establish this point, he gives the premises. So the premise is the point, are those facts, or maybe those author's assumptions or something that is used there to establish the main point. So it provides you the base, and this one is on the basis of this. So these are the two elements, parts of argument. You can just have a look at this one, fact and conclusion. Fact is that support the conclusion. They could be in any of these forms, like a data that author has used, or maybe author's knowledge, evidences, proof, supposition, pattern, reasoning, support, example, observation, whatever author has used as a base to establish a main point. Like if author say that I have 20 years of experience of this business, so I can I can ensure you that only this thing is going to happen. So author has used his 20 years of experience as a premise, as a base. Conclusion is what it tries to establish as the main point, right? The main point could be a conclusion, whatever you call it, an opinion or suggestion or belief, right? Let's move to, so this conclusion and the premises have no fixed places. Any conclusion does not have any fixed place. Here, the sentence written in the red ink is the conclusion. It comes at the end here. And there are three premises used by the author. On the basis of these 3 points, that cricketer X has performed disastrously in the World Cup, his scores have been single digit, and third point, he has failed to perform consistently. On the basis of all this, author comes to the main point conclusion, therefore he should be removed from the team. And we are now discussing conclusion questions. So there you may come across a situation where the conclusion is mentioned in the para, right? So you can write down the type of logical question now I am discussing, the third type question, because the first two, corollary and implication, already done. Now third question I am discussing with you is conclusion. And as you know that the conclusion is the main claim on the basis of the given data, or it is the final summation right, or we call it an assertion. Main claim, final summation, or an assertion. Now, the question of conclusion will be of maybe of two type. So conclusion type 1, the conclusion may be mentioned in the paragraph and you are supposed to maybe mentioned, or number 2, conclusion may be missing. Author's entire argument is written, however the main claim is not written based on those details. So when the question is mentioned, and what you are supposed to do, you are supposed to identify. It is written there as it is, and your job is to identify the conclusion. When the conclusion is missing, it means the author has only written the premises and the conclusion has been not written, and as a reader you have to supply the valid conclusion, that what all these evidences or premises collectively sum up to which point. So missing, in case of missing, you have to supply from the given options, right? These are the two cases. I am showing you the case where the conclusion is mentioned. So suppose you are asked that which is the conclusion here, of course you will say that the third last sentence, and reason is that the last sentence has the indicator here which makes it very easy to identify, therefore he should be removed from the team. This is the main point that the author wants to establish on the basis of these evidences. Now conclusion may have different places, like last sentence was here, now you see the conclusion is written at the very beginning followed by the same premises. Now he starts the argument with, I think cricketer X should be removed from the team as he has consistently failed, and then the premise indicators are there. Yes. Next, conclusion could also be in the middle part, neither at the very beginning nor at the very end, but in between the premises. So like here, well, cricketer X has consistently failed to perform, so I think he should be removed from the team, and then author gives two more premises. I suppose everybody is able to identify it, though yes, indicator is also given here, so I think he should be removed. So is the indicator in the previous statement. I think cricketer X should be removed from the team. There was no indicator here, yet you should be able to establish the cohesion among these sentences. So the point is, if the conclusion is written in the paragraph, it may come at any place. At the very beginning, C followed by P1, P2, any premises, or it can be there at the end, P1, P2 premises are written first, n number of premises, whatever, any number of premises could be there, then C is given, or C may be there here in the middle. So first premise is written, then C conclusion, and then the other premises, right? So you come across the structure of this argument passage. Generally we will have this kind of structure. Okay, so if I show you, you must be thinking, sir, now we take us to some questions, you must be waiting, but let me just make my point, and I hope I understand that I have this lecture has been long, so I'm also desperate to give you 4, 5, 6 passages in a row. However, let me just bring it to a meaningful end, and then we'll take you. So as I showed you the structure of the passages, they are important when you, like in 2021 passages here that we have discussed earlier. Author says it is certain that seditions, wars, and contempt or breach of the laws are not so much to be imputed to the wickedness of the subjects as to the bad state of a dominion. This is author's point C. Now it is followed by the premises. After this, the author has written the premise number 1. For men are not born fit for citizenship but must be made so. Then the second premise he writes P2, men's natural passions, and then there is a detailing of P2 till the end. So, towards the end, he says, it is certain that the former has neither enough pursued the end of unity nor framed its laws with sufficient forethought, and that therefore it has failed in making quite good its right as a commonwealth. Right? Therefore, is here. It has. But it is the repetition of the first line. That's the reason author puts the onus, the responsibility, if these negative things, wars and seditions are prevailing in a country, he puts the responsibility on the state itself, the dominion, that they are to be blamed, right? So, you see here C followed by P1 and P2, and at the end author repeats the very same point, that whatever he has said about C. So, folks, understand that when you read, you should be able to read the structure of the passages of persuasive writing mostly you will come across. तो चलिए साहब अभी इसको करते हैं. तो two types of question of this you will come across. I am going to first give you some question where the conclusion is written, yani the main point, as you did the exercise of identifying topic sentence. So just understand that conclusion will be like a topic sentence because it is the main point, the main claim. So which sentence is the main claim you are supposed to identify, and the question I am giving you. So here is the first paragraph on your screen. Pami, corollary is a logical deduction based on the main point, whereas the conclusion is the main point itself. So both are two different things. So in this paragraph, which sentence according to you is the author trying to establish? Because author will try to establish a conclusion. Author will try to establish the conclusion. So which sentence is trying to establish? When you write your answer, you can write answer as S1, first sentence, second sentence, maybe last sentence. So quickly you write your answer. Okay, S4 has been chosen by all. So the first, marketplace of ideas ensure that all ideas get a fair hearing. Even ideas tainted with prejudice and malice can, okay, in most countries, however, for this reason, the power of governments over information needs to be curtailed. Yes, absolutely correct. This S4 is the right sentence. This is the point that author is trying to establish. And after this sentence, everyone grants that from here till the end, author has written the premises. Okay, and the sentence part that is coming, prior to the conclusion sentence, from the beginning, whatever he has said is setting the context about which he is going to talk about. But his main point is that for the power of government should be cut down, needs to be cut down. Why it should be cut down? The justification is given after this, the premises. All right, good job. Next, I want you to identify, do the same thing here. And so the students who have written S1 or S3 must have understood now, because the S1 and S3, S1 just tells you free marketplace of ideas. What does it do? It ensures that all ideas get a fair hearing. But does the author want to mainly talk about that? Then why he mentioned that what is happening in most countries, the government control this information, the free marketplace of ideas is not there. And then why the author says that the government power should be cut down. So this is author's recommendation, because he has used the word need here. Needs to be cut down. So the student who chose 1 or 3 should understand that what the author basically wants to establish is the conclusion sentence. जैसे आपने टॉपिक सेंटेंस किया था, बिल्कुल ऐसे ही. अब चलिए इसमें ध्यान रखेंगे. प्लीज बी केयरफुल. द थर्ड वन शुड नॉट बी रॉन्ग. I suppose it is legible to you. थोड़ा और जूम कर दूं. Again, the sentence number you are supposed to write down. Okay, sentence number 4 you have written. Yes. This sentence, the similarities are too fundamental to be mere coincidence, however. This is the author's conclusion, main point. And then he proves, after this, he has written the premises. There are operational similarity, functional similarity, hence it cannot be a coincidence. And prior to this sentence, he has written the context here. So the topic sentence or the conclusion is written in this sentence. It holds the main point. One more paragraph. Both are oddly that you have chosen. That was part of the justification, premises. The last sentences were the premises, and those premises were used to establish the point that it cannot be coincidence. Right, so many students have written last sentence because they have come across an indicator here. But in fact, much before the last sentence, author has written the same point here in this sentence. However, this characteristic is actually quite common. So this is the conclusion, main point. After this, he goes into the example. He gives you the example of plankton for example. So this is the elaboration or justification or the example part. After this explanation, long explanation, he gives this summarizing sentence. And here he says the same thing that that he has mentioned in this sentence. These are not two different things. So this however one is your main point. Though in the beginning, some student has written first sentence, first one, it is well known that many species adapt to their environment. But it is usually assumed that only the most highly evolved species alter their environment. Alter means change their environment in ways that aid their own. What it is assumed, like in a general way, he is telling you that what do the people feel, yeah, the scientists feel. But the author does not agree with their point. That's the reason he says that only highly evolved species, it is believed that only highly evolved species can change their environment, but this characteristic is actually quite common. Not only highly evolved species, but as simple as even plankton can also change this. The author does not agree with the theory given here. You are supposed to find out the conclusion for the author. So that is written in this one. The first sentence is the context, is the theory given, put forth by others, and the author does not agree with it. Then author gives his own example of plankton. So fine. So this is so some statements, and these are all the argumentative kind of passages, persuasive writing, where the author has a certain point. He does not only mentions his point, but he also tries to establish it, prove it with the facts and evidences. Now the last para is this one, the last para. देख के जल्दी बताइए कौन सा सेंटेंस है कंक्लूजन. Yes, so any sentence in this one? In fact, no sentence. Yes, no sentence is a conclusion sentence here, because this writing is not argumentative, not persuasive. What kind of writing it is? Writing style that I have discussed with you, it's not persuasive. It is rather a narrative, right? So अब ये it is only telling you that what happened in a you know in a paragraph, in a particular experiment, without any conclusion. So argument we are doing, argument will be written in persuasive writing. Argument writing will be where the author has a main point to establish, and he also gives you the reason to establish that main point. Okay, let's go ahead. To find the conclusion is clear. So now in case you are asked to find the conclusion, nobody will be confused ki sir this was directly written, so how should I did not choose this option because it was written there. Anyway, even if the conclusion could be mentioned or conclusion could be missing. So we have done some examples where the conclusion was written by the author and you were supposed to identify that. You did that 4-5 passages. Now we move to those conclusions that are missing, like missing conclusion. And as you know, since the question of conclusion we are discussing, so of course in the case of missing conclusion, you will be given the data in the paragraph, right? On the basis of the data, you will have to decide that which option is consistent and that considers all this data and logically it makes a point based on the given data. So in the passage, the author will be giving you the various pieces of information, the data, right, that we call as data here, or you can say that the various premises are written there, P1, P2. You will have to consider all these premises and then see that which direction they are heading to, right? So from the given option, you have to choose that which one is logically consistent to the given data. And here, when you evaluate the data, you have to remember that the two cases you will come across. Inductive case, either it will be or it will be a deductive case. Inductive or deductive case? A deductive case where the data will be sufficient. So just write down in the bracket that in a deductive case, the data is sufficient for the conclusion to be drawn. The data is sufficient for the conclusion to be drawn. And about inductive case, you write down, the data is not sufficient for the conclusion to be drawn. The data is not sufficient for the conclusion to be drawn. Hence, in the inductive case, the language of the correct option should reflect, hence the language of the correct option should reflect the insufficiency of the data. And such a conclusion should be made which depict, which makes sense, and which is like depicting this lacking of the data. In deductive, there will be no problem because the data is sufficient. So if I cite an example and I say that all Indians are honest. Second statement says that Pami is Indian, is an Indian. What conclusion we can deduce? The conclusion we deduce from this is that Pami is honest, because all Indians are honest and Pami is Indian, so Pami must be honest. It's a deductive case, right? This is an example of a deductive case. There is no problem with the conclusion to be drawn because the given data is sufficient, or the conclusion naturally follows from the given data. However, in the inductive case, the case will be like, the situation will be like this. Statement 1 will say that Pami is Indian, and second statement says Pami is honest. Pami is Indian, Pami is honest. Based on this, a conclusion is drawn that all Indians are honest. Now, you cannot choose this, कि all Indians are honest, because you don't have sufficient data. You have been only given one example, on the basis of one subset, on the basis of one candidate, you can't make a general conclusion about all. So, all Indians are honest is wrong. Similarly, you cannot say that all Indians are not honest. That will also be wrong. Now, this one is like, they may be or they may not be. All Indians may be honest, all Indians may not be honest. So here we have to be careful that the way we cannot choose that all Indians are honest, similarly we cannot dismiss or deny this that all Indians are not honest. The may be, may not be. So you notice that in the deductive cases, the conclusion is moving from general to specific. General is all Indians are honest, Pami is Indian. So specific case is of Pami, so Pami is honest, right? Since all Indians are honest. Whereas in the inductive case, it actually moves from specific to general, and that's why it becomes questionable. We don't have sufficient data. So since a specific case of Pami is mentioned in both statements that he is Indian, he is honest, so on that basis we can't say all Indians are honest or all Indians are not honest. Or in the morning we did some of the inductive deductive cases also, when I discussed with you those examples of if and if X and then Y, उसमें भी वही बात थी. If she winks, he jumps out of the window, right? So no winking is a kind of inductive case. We can't say that, if she did not wink, then he will not jump out of the window. He may jump out of the window because of other reasons also. So dear, conclusion missing and conclusion supply cases you have to be careful and keep in mind that the cases may not be always deductive, it may be inductive also. So now I'm going to give you some questions where the missing conclusion is being asked. Okay. Here is one. You read this para. Hope it's legible. Newtonian physics dominated science for over 2 centuries. This one. I show you the options. You must have understood Newtonian physics versus Einstein physics. This paragraph is based on comparison format, and the 4 options are here. Now, in this case, the 2 theories of physics are mentioned in the paragraph. Hence, I'm sure that option A is going to catch many eyeballs because it starts with the history of physics. Now, the question is that on the basis of the 2 theories mentioned in the para, Newtonian and Einstein, can we make any conclusion about the history of physics? Because the history of physics, how many theories are there? We exactly don't know from the para. So there are either only these 2 theories or there are more theories, we don't know, we know nothing. So the history of physics is characterized by a pattern, though whether the same pattern is present in the history of physics cannot be established, hence we don't have sufficient data for this. So DI case, yani data insufficient case is there. The claim made in option A is not consistent with the passage, data is not sufficient for that. If you go for C option, C is also in the same league as option A. It says every theory of physics. Now when you say every theory of physics and only 2 theories are given, that is also meaningless. So just like A, option C is also a claim based on insufficient data. Hence cannot be the valid conclusion. If you look at option D, Delhi, it says if a long accepted theory of physics is surpassed, it must be surpassed by a theory that is equally successful. It is also wrong because it must be surpassed by a theory that is where, I mean, the examiner has put this condition, it is not coming from the author's side. Moreover, it's surpassed by a theory that is equally successful. However, the theory described here, Einstein theory was better than Newtonian physics, Einstein's physics. As given here, Einstein's theories came to show the fundamental limits of Newtonian physics and to surpass the Newtonian view. So not equally successful, but rather more successful it was. So option D, the problem with option D is that it has done a distortion of the given fact. Based on the distortion, option C, every theory of physics was based on the DI case. This claim we did not choose. Same goes with the history of physics, a DI case. We are left with option B. Right, many students chose option B. So in conclusion, the option that you are going to choose should be consistent with the given premises. Let me take you to another question. Here on your screen, this rising GDP Write down the correct answer for this one. Conclusion is missing, you are supposed to supply. Okay, the correct option is option D for Delhi. Yes, absolutely correct. Right? So the premises are given there in the paragraph, and you have to choose an option that collectively, you know, an option that these two premises culminate into. So author has not just the author has the author has not dismissed the GDP. He says the GDP alone is not sufficient. GDP is by no means enough to create a truly prosperous nation. What else is important? He says equitable distribution is important too. Before this last line, he gives the justification ki why GDP alone is not sufficient and why the inequality should not be there, right? So he says increasing inequalities in income can lead to social tensions erupting in crime and violence, and only when the vast majority of people share the benefits of growth will peace and prosperity coexist. So equitable distribution is important. So GDP on one hand plus equitable distribution on the other hand, and D option actually is the main claim, is based on these two. So the conclusion missing, the conclusion mentioned, conclusion is the main point. We need to, and everything revolves around the data. Data could be sufficient for some claims, may not be sufficient. Data could be distortedly used, as you have seen in the equally successful wala para mein. So dear, if we talk about conclusion, it is like a crux based question. It is the main point, and the point that the author, that sums up the author's argument that you are supposed to find out. A student asked me, ki, sir, what is the difference between corollary and conclusion? Though I told you the theoretical difference, but I think in case such doubts, if there are such doubts, then they need to be discussed and they need to be addressed through the examples. So I show you one example. I don't know whose doubt it was, this corollary question. Look at this passage number 6 we solved of 2021 in the corollary. You remember this para? In India, the objective of macroeconomic policy is to enhance the economic welfare of the people. And any one wing of such macro policy, monetary or fiscal, cannot independently work without active support of another. This is the author's claim. So in a way, we can say that this is the author's conclusion, main point. And a corollary is a logical deduction made on the basis of the main point. So we chose option A, that it means the central bank and the government cannot work independently. They need to work together. So pay attention to this side. The conclusion may be written in the paragraph as a main point, may not be written also. So if it is written but the corollary is not written, the corollary is something which is based on the author's main point that he has written. So in the questions of corollary, your job is, while reading the paragraph, understand and identify the author's main point that he is trying to establish, based, and that we call as conclusion. Based on this conclusion, what is the logical deduction? What is the next step that you can take out? As I gave you the example, suppose an author in the whole article of a research paper, he mentions that all liquids have a freezing point. Based on this conclusion, main claim, you can make a corollary that it means milk can be frozen, right? Yeah, all metals are good conductor of light. Based on this conclusion, we can make a corollary. It means that copper can be used or will be very suitable for wires. If we talk about whole Indian political scenario, ministers and their powers and the people at their disposal, so we say that it is a political power that is very evident. The privilege will be the corollary. Yes, they have got the privilege. So corollary is the next logical step based on then already established point here, main point. Fine. So the time is now to take up this sheet of conclusion, the worksheet that has been shared with everyone. This sheet, folks, where the conclusion is given, it is given in the book also, and is a soft copy is mentioned here. And there are some non-CSAT questions, like here. We have got 6 passages, non-CSAT questions, and then based on CSAT questions are given here. So I'm going to give you some of the questions from the non-CSAT section, right? So please take on the on the question that you are going to solve. I want you to go for the passage number. I will see that how many passages you get correct now. So passage number 3, then passage number 5, and passage number 1. Take passage number 1, then passage number 3, then passage number 5. So these 3 passages you are going to solve now. Passage 1, passage 3 and passage 5 from the conclusion sheet. Passage 1 on your screen. Of course, 5 minutes you have. These are smaller paragraphs, so I think you should not even take 2 minutes per para. Now passage number 3 on your screen. And passage 5. All right, so the answer for fifth passage that you have just done should be option D for Delhi. Fifth D. You cannot choose C because it says Shikha has always performed better than most of the employee. You please remember that you are choosing a conclusion on the basis of the given story. So the claim made in the options must have sufficient data. There should not be data insufficient. Shikha has always performed better than most of the employee. Always, number one. This particular job of Shikha where she was not given an increment is described in the passage. When you go for always word, it means you are covering Shikha's career, entire career. But you don't know whether it is the only job she has done or more 20 jobs she has done. So that's why this is wrong. Second point, second point that should have caught your attention is she has done better than most of the employee. It is given in the para that Shikha did her work on time, most of the work on time. However, nothing is mentioned about the other employees that they did not do their things on time. Right. And moreover, this statement talks about most of the other employees. So when most of the other employees, this particular part, it means Shikha must have done at least more than, yeah, better than 50% of the employees. Only then the condition of most is fulfilled. So Shikha must have done better than most of the other employees. It means more than 50% of the employees. However, this specific information is not given anywhere in the passage. So this claim is bogus. It's just like most should be understood very carefully. And in case you are told that if I say that in a particular class test of this batch, Biswajit has scored more marks more marks than most of the students of this batch. So it means that Biswajit must have scored more marks than at least 50% of this class strength. Only then the condition of most is fulfilled. So next time when you come across this expression, be careful to analyze it properly. So C is wrong on two counts, an extreme word C did not notice here. So by extreme word, I do not mean that you should have jumped the guns and say that it's wrong, but rather you should have gone for proper analysis. Option A is Shikha has always received an increment during appraisal. We don't know always received again the entire career, we don't know about the past. B, Shikha did not receive an increment because she failed to submit SRR. Actually, in the last sentence, author says she concluded. You see, the author here has not given the actual reason why she was not given CRR. Author's opinion or author's version is not mentioned in the passage. He has merely narrated what happened with an employee Shikha and what she concluded. Why the company did not give her the increment, nowhere mentioned. Hence, you cannot choose option B because it sounds as if this is the actual reason that she didn't receive an increment because she failed to submit SRR. Though it sounds like this claim is like an actual reason, however, not given. It is only written that she concluded that not being granted an increment was unfair. So it is her own observation that is rightly mentioned in the option Shikha believes. I hope this one is clear. Passage number 3. Passage number 3 again, this mentions something, but the correct option D for Delhi is based on this phrase, business as usual. Since the author has said it is a business as usual, the vast bulk of new public spending announced in global economic stimuli seems largely business as usual, with major cash injections being directed towards banks and car companies. So it means it has been a regular business that the new company, renewable energy firms, they do not get the cash. The company, the government has given the cash injections to the banks and car companies. So business as usual means the public spending has been expectedly biased towards certain industries. Yes. If you go for option C, it says car companies and banks will earn huge profits as they are the gainers. So it means that they have got the cash input, so they will earn huge profit. How do you know? This claim for option C claim, do you have the sufficient data? And how are you sure that this capital input will be converted into profit? It could be profit, maybe. It could convert into a loss, possible. Third possibility is that it could be a break-even point, no profit, no loss. So dear, C claim आपने choose किया without properly analyzing the given data. So C is wrong. B, announcement of global economic stimuli was a much awaited action. I mean, it's talking about past, which is not in the scope of this passage. Whether it was a much awaited action or not, we can't establish, kind of inductive thing. No data for this. So it's a DI case. Like C, it's a DI case. And option A is making a prediction about future. The new public spending will lead to decreased popularity of the government among masses. So the examiner is making a future prediction, making about a claim about the past, whereas this statement paragraph is talking about the present scenario only. We don't know for sure that it will lead to decreased popularity or not. Hence, again, we don't have data for option A. Only option D is based on the given data, business as usual. So, your job is to find out on the basis of the given data which option is consistent. The student who has written, if we complete last line with option D, it is totally wrong, please. Which passage you are talking about? Passage number 3 or 5? Kindly mention the number. If you talk about passage number 3, then passage number 3 is actually just according to option D. It says business as usual with major cash injections being directed towards banks and car companies rather than renewable energy firms. It is a business as usual. It means it has been a biased. There has been this practice, right? Passage 5, okay. तो चलिए 1 से पहले 5 देख लेते हैं. 5, my dear, please read carefully. This is starting from she concluded that not being granted an increment was unfair. It is her feeling. Why unfair? Because there are colleagues who have received increment without submitting SRR. But who is thinking so? Shikha is thinking so. That's why Shikha concluded. Shikha believes. She concluded. Whether it's the reason or not, yani the company's stand is not mentioned in the para. The author has not told us the reality, what Shikha thinks. So this is the extended part of what she concluded, and you are unnecessarily confused with that. It is all the same thing. You are saying D is just opposite to that. So you are supposed to reread this one and let me know tomorrow in case your doubt is not clear. Passage number 1 I move to. This passage, now it talks about the correct answer should be option B for Bombay. Ox pickers may be harming oxen rather than helping them. And we get to know through the research report mentioned here in this passage. You know, the oxpecker, the red-billed bird found in Africa, had long been thought to aid. Aid means to help impala and oxen by picking ticks. Ticks are those small insects of their skin. It's an example of mutualism, right? Then this contradictory terms come, but Australian. Then author mentioned the research of this Australian biologist, and his research mentioned that two groups of impala, to one group of the oxpecker bird did not have an axis. If the oxpecker did not have an axis, then the number of the ticks should have multiplied because there is no one to pick them off. But this did not happen. There was no change in the number. However, with another group of impala oxen, where the oxpecker's bird have an axis, what they did, they on the other oxpeckers picked at the existing wounds, delaying the healing time. So if you connect both the dots means both evidences here, which option you will head to? On one hand, the number of ticks was not changed even in the absence of impala, which should have, that should have increased in the axis of oxpecker. And the oxpeckers, they picked up on the healing and delayed the healing time. So B is the option that you should have chosen for this. I suppose it is clear. Now folks, your job is, since this is your, the 3-4 questions we have done from this sheet, you are supposed to solve this conclusion sheet. The whole conclusion sheet you are supposed to solve. So go for all non-CSAT questions. 3 we have already done. And then there are some 15 passages taken from CSAT paper. All such questions that ask you about the critical message, main idea, what does the author argue for, what is his suggestion, all these questions collectively belong to conclusion family, right? The main point, like a crux. So I hope that you will solve all these questions with at least 80% of accuracy. You know, our target in the very beginning, first day, I told you that 2 minutes you should spend on one passage. 40 to 50 questions you are supposed to solve in CSAT paper, minimum 40, maximum 50 out of 80 questions. And you must try to acquire 80% of accuracy level. That will come up, gradually. So 80% of the passages with 80% of accuracy, that is the mantra for CSAT paper. So here, of course, you cannot skip the passages, but I believe that so far as the main point or conclusion that you are supposed to find out, you will go for the claim made in the option, the data given in the passage, compare it, whether it is sufficient or not. All the games will be played there, and then whether the data is based on distorted claim or not. So that's it. See you tomorrow. Conclusion is your sheet. Test 1 I am supposed to discuss, so we'll discuss it tomorrow, both the questions. No student should say I could not solve this, right? Because I will not give you time in tomorrow's class to read it. I will simply give you the answers of the questions and we'll go for your doubts. And yes, I will ask you to tell me the number of the correct answers you got, so that you start gauging yourself whether you are attaining that accuracy level or not. See you tomorrow. Good night.